All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sustainability and Environmental Committee. My name is Springfield City Councilor Victor Davila. I am the chair of this committee. Today is April the 17th at 3:07, and I'm officially calling this meeting to order. Today on the agenda, we are going to be discussing discussion of PCB at the West Parish Water Plant. And also we're going to be talking about the progress on remediation efforts to address PCBs at the West Parish Water Plant. Here in chambers right now, it's just myself, Councilor Davila. We are also joined here in the chambers, also joined there yet remotely. But why don't we go around the room and introduce ourselves for the public at home? Okay. Start with
Theo Heakley, Director of Legal Affairs for the Springfield Water Sewer Commission.
thank you for you.
Scott Schimmel, Executive Director for the Springfield Water and Sewer Commission.
Communications Manager for Springfield Water and Sewer.
We are also joined by resident members, and we have
Frank Ryan, he's Springfield resident.
and we also have Sean Corbett,
16 acres.
and of course we're joined by from the news Republican. Is it Republican?
Yeah.
Republican. Okay. Very well. So why don't we get right into it? Just to give people a little bit of by way of background, a couple of months PCB was found at the construction site at the West Parish plant, which I believe is located in Westfield. It was located in, as I understand it, in a particular location. It was located as a result of the contractors doing the due diligence and looking at the soil, and they detected this funny looking material. They decided to test it. It turned out to be PCB. With that being said, I felt that it was important that we have a meeting to discuss this issue and to reassure the public of where we are and that we are indeed addressing this issue. For those of you who may be available or may be aware, PCB was used back in the 50s, 60s, perhaps, or 70s, perhaps, and it was very common. However, it's also, as we know, carcinogen, producing cancer. We also being joined by Michael.
Yes, Michael Ackerman.
Thank you for joining us, Michael. And so we do have a couple of questions, but before I get into specific questions, Josh, do you want to just give us a quick review?
Sure.
You want to add to what I opening statement for the public?
Yeah, Councilor, you kind of had sent some questions. I think those lay out exactly where we are. I can give you a copy of just to orient yourself, and we have extras for those in the room if you're interested. Just gives you an idea of the scale that we're talking about. This is the West Parish campus. Just to orient you. The slow sand filters, you can see a group of 4 of them in yellow, another group of 4 in bluish yellow. So it's 11 through 14 on the left top corner, 7 through 10, which are in the middle, and then 15 through 18 in red on the bottom. Each set of these were built at different times as the population of Springfield grew over time. The actual oldest filters are where you see the rapid sand filter plant. Mm-hmm. That part of the campus actually used to be another set of filters, which were demolished in the 70s to build the new filter plant. All right. And then each set of these slow sand filters were constructed at different times in our history to meet the needs of the city. So one of the important things here to understand is the activity here at the plant is the plan is to actually eliminate all of this. The most recent piece of this filtering functionality is the rapid sand plant, which was built in around 1974. And then the actual new plant is going to be built in the area where you see 7 through 10 and 15 through 18. So in order to build the new plant, the facility itself, it sits on top of these existing filters.
Okay.
And then just from a water, you have some questions in water that we're certainly going to get to. But part of the plan for building out this project was to be able to rely almost exclusively on the rapid sand filter plant and some of filters 11 through 14 while we demo this work, these working filters, which have been offline now for several years, to make room to build the new plant. And that's a huge cost savings for our customers, was the ability to actually keep the filter plant going, build on site on the current campus, the new treatment plant, and then we're going to go back and we'll take the rest of the stuff offline. So we didn't have to go out, repurchase land, replumb water transmission mains, et cetera. So this was a strategic choice to build in this lot. All right.
Okay.
Just to clarify, these were built in the 1920s. These were built in the 50s, I believe, and these were built in 1966.
Yeah.
And the rapid sand filters.
And those were built in 1966.
So that's new.
Yeah.
That's the new.
Yeah.
Our newest stuff is 55 years old.
Yeah. And just was the 1900s.
Just out of curiosity, what's the difference between the rapid sand filters and the
It's a totally different filtering system, right? The slow sand filters are a very simple but effective filter where you just have layers of sand. And you put water through the sand, it filters through the bottom, you collect it off the bottom, and what comes off the bottom is clean water. Essentially.
That's with the slow.
That's with the slow sands.
That's what we discussed like the Mayas.
Yeah, I mean, it's very low tech, it's very effective. You need a lot of room to do it, right? So, these were very common back at the turn of the century. The last century.
If I may, before you go on, Josh, how many gallons of water do we process a day in this center?
On average, we're about 30 million gallons a day of drinking water. On average.
No, of drinking.
Yes, yep.
That doesn't mean we consume 40 million gallons of.
There's a lot of factors in that, but we make 30 million gallons a day. So we filter 30 million gallons a day at this treatment plant, and then we treat about 35 to 40 million gallons a day at the wastewater plant, because we have some communities that we do not supply drinking water to, but we do take their wastewater.
I see.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity before you go on. So where exactly do our water come from? It comes from a reservoir?
Yep. And
that will be which one?
Two reservoirs. Cobble Mountain Reservoir is the main reservoir, and Borden Brook Reservoir feeds into Cobble Mountain. Borden Brook.
Okay.
Blandford and Granville.
Good. Never been there. No, so the water comes down, it goes into this, I'm assuming it's a piping system.
Yep.
Goes into the filters. I'll make it very raw.
Well, raw is the right term. So we have a raw water transmission system, which carries water from the reservoirs to the treatment plant here. Right. Along the way, we do a lot of other things to it, including make green energy, just for the record. So when the water gets here, it gets treated either almost entirely nowadays. It gets treated at the rapid sand plant because it's much better water quality. We keep the slow sand filters operable in the event that we have an issue of the rapid sand plant. It's redundancy, and then on the very peak days of demand, we can add additional flow to the system through the slow sand filters.
Gotcha. Now, thank you for that quick overview, Josh. And so let me just get right into the questions if I may, unless you want to add anything.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So Josh, so I see that the oldest filter that we have is 1920. I'm sure that's been refitted a couple of times over the years. And is that a yes?
It's been maintained.
It's been maintained.
Yeah. The technology hasn't changed.
Okay, but it's still the same thing since 1920. It's been maintained.
Yes. Yep.
When I think of filter, I think the filter at home, I just take it. Okay. But I know, yes, different process. I get it. So anyways, so where exactly was the PCB found? What was the Can you point out to the?
Yeah, well, you can't see it here, but if you look at slow sands, 15 through 18
Okay,
in red, all
Yeah.
right, so what that represents, the actual filters themselves are basically a concrete subterranean building.
Mhm.
So it's like a giant tank, each one of them the size of a football field. So if you look at each one of those, that represents about 160,000 square feet,
Mhm.
right? So maybe a little bit smaller than a football field, but so each one of those is a football field size concrete building
It's pretty big, huh?
with 15-foot ceilings, right? So they're big. And the filter media is inside. So the water would be filtering through the sand inside of those filter beds, and then it would go out to be chlorinated and then distributed for consumption. So where in these ones, which were built in 1966, which is right in the heart of the period when PCBs were being used in construction materials, when they pour concrete construction joints, right? They can't do a monolithic pour of that size of concrete, so they do it in sections.
Mhm.
And every time they stop and then they start the next day or the next week with a new section, they put a joint in there, like a joint of caulk, and that's called a construction joint. So in this group of 4 filters, all of the construction joints had PCB caulk, and PCB caulk was utilized at this period because it was considered to be a great building material. It's very resilient. It resists water. It resists decay. It's very pliable. And so if you put that between 2 joints and you squeeze it, it makes a really good gasket. And so it makes things waterproof. That's why it was used. It was a good material. If you go back to the ones that were initially built in the 20s, that was just actually, they used a different type of concrete, right, with smaller aggregate, like a mortar, and that's what they used in the joints. So they still poured concrete in the same manner with construction joints, but they used a much more rigid material in a grout versus a caulk.
Now, Josh. So did I hear you correctly? It was found in one of the joints underground among these 4 sites, among these 4 plants. Is that pretty much what you say?
Yeah. So I just, there's a process here that I think makes sense. So in order to do the demolition to build a new treatment plant, we have to remove, there's 3-4 feet of soil on top of all of these. First, we have to remove the soil, right? So
that I'm clear, you guys are removing all these plants. So you're building a new one.
Everything here will be gone. Everything you see
Yes.
will be gone.
It's a big box and it's kind of been buried essentially, so we're taking the soil off so that we can demolish the box. So we were taking
And that's what was found
in the soil.
in.
That is associated.
Okay.
Yeah, so wherever those joints were exposed, where the concrete joints, so say you're looking at these boxes, but they go 15 feet down, but on top of them is about 3 or 4 feet of soil.
So was it found in one particular joint or throughout?
So
I mean, my indicators will be if I found in one place, everything's at risk.
yeah, we haven't, because the size of this, remember, that's 4 football fields. So we are in the process that we have to do is to sample extensive sampling throughout the whole campus, right? And so
I'm sorry, the whole.
well, we've already done some initial testing on other parts of the campus. We're very sure that it's just limited to the area in red. Okay, so it's in the area that you have highlighted in red.
So you're, I just want to be clear. So I'm going to use educated guess, is that the other 2 filters, 2 lots, they probably will not contain PCB. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yeah, that's a fair, we're not taking educated guesses on any of this. It is a fact.
Let me phrase that, Josh, with your most scientific and analytic skills, you're confident to say
Yes.
that there's no PCB.
There may be additional sampling, but the sampling that we've done to date on the other parts of the campus are indicative of there not being any issues with PCBs in any of the other construction materials in the slow sand filters.
I have to say that I'm impressed that the contractors, these guys, if it wasn't for them, I guess this would have been fine.
Well, no, I think.
From what I understood in the public comments.
No, I think, we removed the soil from the top of the filters, right? So there's 3 feet of soil. As we removed all of that soil, that was really the first look the contractor had at the construction joints.
Right.
And so they saw a construction joint and they saw the material and, they wanted to test the material. So the material got tested and it came back with
Right.
PCBs. And then that's kind of where this entire process kicked off and brought us to this day.
Understood. Now, Judge, and I'm getting educated on this myself as we go along here. So, I would like to believe that I know we do a whole bunch of testing of the water routinely.
Yes,
And if there was PCB in the water, it would have been detected.
yes, absolutely.
And that's one of the things that we test for.
Yes, yep,
So we are confident to say that there's no PCB.
absolutely.
I'm assuming there will be all kinds of
What's that?
law. I'm assuming there will be all kinds of law, Judge, that will require to disclose.
Yeah, I obviously, I mean,
Including divine.
yeah, we operate under that too.
Yes.
As you know, we're building this plant because you get notices every quarter about haloacetic
Yep.
acid, right? So PCBs are a different type of compound, but we're also required to test for those. And we have
Okay.
ever since they've been part of the regulatory framework. And
So that's a good segue to my next question. Is the water delivery will be affected or everything is going to continue to work as normal?
All of this stuff has already been offline for several years, since 2020.
There's no, okay.
So there won't be an effect in what we're doing based upon the construction or the fact that we found PCBs. These were all going to be demolished, right? So what we are doing is relying on the rapid sand plant and the one set of slow sand filters that we have available to us. So we've planned for this all along. So the discovery of PCBs doesn't really change how the water is going to be made or delivered to any of our customers, wholesale or retail.
Of course, we want to do our due diligence, Judge, but does this set back the project in the way, shape, or form?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's fair to say, we're looking at a campus here. You can see the size of the campus. And, there's a process for us to be able to get the information that we need to be able to make informed decisions on how best to manage this. And that process has a lot of steps to it. And we're in that process right now. So, we first discovered this and we took some samples, right? And then we did all of our regulatory notifications that were required. And abided by all of those regulatory timelines, and we took all of those samples. But the reality is, when you have a discovery like this on a campus of this size, there is a lot to go through in order to make sure that you allow yourself the most possible options in how you mitigate this, because there's many options in how to mitigate this. So we're very careful to make sure that as many options that we can have to clean this up and dispose of it and get on with the construction project are available to us. And so we've been working with both regulatory agencies that whose jurisdiction this is in, which is the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And that's the Region 1 headquarters in Boston that we're working with. And then Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, Mass DEP. So we've been working with them on developing the sampling plan, because in order to figure out what we can do to classify this material, we need to do a lot of sampling. And we could be in hundreds or even thousands of samples that need to be taken. And those samples, that sampling plan needs to be approved by both of those agencies. And that's where we are right now. We've been back and forth, and both agencies have been great to work with. They understand the importance.
The EPA
And DEP. They understand the importance of building this drinking water plant. They understand that we have drinking water quality issues with the haloacetic acid, and that's the reason we're building the treatment plant. So I think they're very much focused on helping us move through this as quickly as possible. But there is a process to this, and I want to kind of just give a little bit of an example. So when I say that we have to classify that material, you could have hundreds of thousands of tons of material that needs to be disposed of here. And how you dispose of it can have a huge impact on the cost and schedule. So if some of it is really dirty and really contaminated, it has to go to a certain type of disposal facility. And if some of it is actually clean, it goes to a different type of disposal facility. And the cost to send it to one or the other, there's a very big difference, right? And so that's why when I was saying we really need to be strategic in our sampling plan and developing the overall mitigation strategy so that when it comes time, when we take the samples, right? So right now we're working on sampling plans. The next step is to actually take the samples. Taking this many samples and getting the analysis back, reviewing the data to understand what's in the ground and what we can do is going to take several more months. That's just the reality to do all of this. And then we develop mitigation plans based on the information we know, because now we know, all right, we have this much of this type of soil, this much of this type of material, and this much of this type of material. How can we dispose of it in the most cost-effective and timely way and safe way? Those are the three things. Can we do it cost effectively? How is it going to impact construction schedule? And we have to do it safely and compliant with the regulations. And so this is why you cannot rush through these things, because if you box yourself in, you may be disposing of something at a much higher cost than you need to.
Mhm.
And so making sure you're strategic in how you're sampling, where you're sampling, and your approach to any mitigation strategy is really, really important in order to allow us the most options to pick. And the goal here, as it always has been, is, our goal is to provide safe drinking water. That's what we do. And so part of that is building our filter plant as soon as we can.
Josh, I'm gonna go into the questions, but let me refresh my memory. How did you get the funding? How did you guys get the funding? I know it was a grant loan from the.
No, we have
Refresh me, how do we get the money?
We have two different types of funding for this. The State Department of the State Revolving Fund, the SRF, is one of the primary funding mechanisms, and that's through the Treasury and the DEP, the Clean Water Trust. And then our other mechanism is through WIFIA loan, the Water Innovation Finance and Infrastructure Act, which was a competitive loan. It's not there are no grants. I won't say there's no grants, because the state of Massachusetts has actually been fabulous. So, but the two funding sources are this federal WIFIA program, a competitive loan. We got a $250 million loan with them, and then the remaining funds are with the state SRF program, state loan.
And what's the total price tag?
Well, the price tag, there's a bidding price, which I think was 290 something. 190 something million was the bid price. Then we have our engineering prices on top of that, and then we'll go from there. So
Yes, it was 250 million from the loan, and how much from the SRF?
I just don't want to misspeak. North of 100 million. I think
So we can get you the numbers.
Yeah.
But I know it was like just $300 million plus.
Yeah.
Probably, I remember
Yep.
vaguely that, okay. And I think, before I get to the questions, we are paying for that over how many years?
The WIFIA portion is, some of it is 30 years and the SRF portion is 20.
Okay, so it's 30 years. Okay, and when I say we, I mean the ratepayers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta be realistic. That's,
Uh,
it is what it is.
we live in realism.
Yeah.
every day.
I mean, I say that including us. And you guys pay for your water.
Yes.
And so, anyways, That's a good segue to my next question. I'm gonna give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. Yes. So how, in your, also want to recognize we're being joined by, Councilor, Saida Govan. Thank you, Councilor Govan, for joining us.
Thank you. Apologies for being.
Thank you. And also we'll be joined by Katie Shea from the, Springfield Water and Sewer, correct? Thank you, Katie, for joining us. So I did not see you before, Councilor Govan. And Katie, did you just join, Councilor Govan?
I did. I just joined around 3:15.
Sorry, I didn't want to make you wait. Anyways, so Josh, and I know you don't have a crystal ball here, but how much would you guesstimate that this may or may not set us back in the project?
Yeah, I'm just, I want to deal with the facts that we have. And so I'm not going to put a number or an impact to it. Like, I think we know that the contract is going to be impacted financially and on schedule. And when we get this information and it gets processed and we have an idea, when we have that, we're going to give it to whoever is interested.
And so I ask because, I agree with you, Josh, that this to be done, not rushed through this, but that needs to be done properly, efficiently for the water to be to be delivered with product. Because water is one of the elements of life. But is there a possibility that to the loan that we might be affected with the interest rate going up, or is there any kind of possible financial impact for the ratepayer due to the delay?
Not that you're going to see in this year or next year because the financing is in place for the project.
Okay.
Right. So when we have a number and a schedule impact developed and we're progressing through, though there will be impacts. I don't know what those are, but I think the good thing that we have with the commission is we have a very strong financial team. And, we've been able to do a tremendous amount of work here in the past 10 or 15 years. We're over $500 million worth of work. And with that much work, we do rate increases every year, but they're modest for the amount of work that we're doing. And that's, one of the things that you will notice, if you've been paying your Springfield Water and Sewer bill, is you don't see a lot of this.
There's
Right?
a structure 9%, I believe, already. Isn't there like a steady increase moving forward every so many years? Because for a long time, we were not having any increase in the water.
Well, for decades, they had no increases.
That's
You've
what
had
I'm wondering.
increases for quite some time now, but
Yeah,
I
but
think-
even before that, it was not zero. My understanding.
I think you would I would say in the past 20 years, you've probably seen rate increases anywhere from 5, 6 up to 12, 13 at times. Our goal is always we don't look at just the rates for next year. We look at rates for the next 3, 5, and 10 years.
No, I understand. I just want to make it clear and for the people to understand that this is prior to us getting into government. Okay. I believe that Springfield for a long time was not having, I'm going to use the word adequate rate increases, which then put us into the situation we found ourselves in, that we had to go and get these loans to fix the infrastructure. Because if this infrastructure goes kaput, we don't have water. We have to go to Costco to go. So
I'll do that.
right. So it's a necessary evil. It's an expensive evil, but it's necessary evil.
Yeah, there's not, I find that that would be, no offense, Counselor. I don't think there's any evil about it. I think people need to understand the value that water and sanitation bring,
Right.
and that there's a cost to that, just
Right.
like there's a cost to having your garbage picked up or paying for your cell phone, right? So, but I think Springfield is no different than many communities across the country, and that there's been an underinvestment in water and sewer for decades.
Right.
And it's coming home to roost now, and that's why you see a lot of headlines with issues with water and sewer, right?
Josh, I do have a few more questions, but I'm going to turn the floor over to Councilor Govan. Councilor Govan, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I did go out and tour the facility you guys are building out there in Westfield. And it looks like it's going to be magnificent, and of course, it's very expensive. I'm aware of that. And those are, one of the concerns that I have throughout the city. And of course, it's not just the water commission, but Eversource, everybody's bills are going up. The only thing that's not going up is their income. So how are you going to do the increases? Are they going to be you know, all at one time, or are they going to be tiered?
Yeah, Counselor, thanks for that question. I was just saying, the goal that we have every year is to have a stability in how we do our rate increases, right? So there's not these big swings. So you don't get a 20% increase, and we look at it based upon like the annual household bill and what will that increase be in total for water, sewer, and whatever other fees there are. And our strategy has always been to make that as stable as possible. And if you look back over the past several years, you will see, even in the face of the pandemic, we kept our rates where we said we would. And we were able to do that because we were able to pivot and maneuver and stretch and put some projects on hold while we do others. And so I think addressing the issue of the PCBs is going to be no different than really what we have done for the past decade, which is stretch our money as far as we can for our ratepayers and make sound decisions that will last into the future. And that's what we do. So I would say it will be a challenge, but it will be managed well. And at the end of it, we'll be able to provide affordable water for the services that you get. And I think we continue to provide really good service to all of our customers.
Okay, and my last question is regarding the quality. I know that we get the notices in the mail with the water commission bills. Um, is the water drinkable?
Absolutely. Drink up. You should drink a lot of it, is what we would suggest.
I drink
Yeah,
a lot of water, but I buy it at BJ's. So
you shouldn't
is
you
the
shouldn't
water
do that.
drinkable?
You shouldn't do that. Absolutely. The water is drinkable. It's safe. If there was any issues, you get notified pursuant to the regulations. The water is 100% drinkable. The HAA 5 notices that you get, which you have seen, that's the
Hmm.
reason that's the reason we're building the new plant here, right? So
Right.
our technology and our infrastructure is old, and we need to build new plants. But the water is absolutely safe.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Gavad. I will be getting to the public, to the rest of the Senate meeting in a second. But Josh, so you sort of talked about a little bit about, I'm gonna use the word mitigation. You do samplings. There's a lot more stuff that needs to be done.
Yep.
And so, is there any other mitigation that we should be aware of for the public to know of that is being addressed?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of an open book, right? We're doing a project for the good of the public.
Right.
We found an issue, we're addressing the issue,
Right.
and as soon as we have the information on how that will impact rates, it'll become public.
So talking about an open book and the necessary evil that people don't want to talk about is money, right? Everything moves with money. So there's a lot of moving factors to this, the moving pieces. Again, I realize you may not have a full answer. You might have some sort of a guess. How much is this going to end up costing? And what will the impact be on the ratepayers? Will that be pennies on the dollar? But by the way, to be fair, you guys are dealing with something that happened possibly back in the 60s. And now you have to deal with it. So, but that's going to take some money. Even I know that. So can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah, I think you asked that question already, Counselor, and I think it would be speculative at this point in time. So there's nothing for me to add to that. Like, we're going to go through the appropriate motions to get the information and develop those cost
Yeah.
Everything else would just be speculation and just could be damaging to the public for them to think one thing and it's not. So it's just, we don't do that. We don't speculate. We actually just do our business.
It was a good pitch. You've done this for a while, haven't you? That was a good pitch.
Well, I mean, what I will tell you, what I will tell you is that we deal with infrastructure that is hundreds of years old
Yep.
every day.
Yep.
And every day we troubleshoot the problems because it's not just PCBs. I will say this, and I say it a lot at these meetings. When you turn your tap on and you get a clean glass of water, it is a miracle. There's 250 employees working 24/7, 365 that make that miracle happen.
Yeah.
And when you flush your toilet and it goes away and you don't have to think about it, you think about the Springfield Water and Sewer Commission because there are people who have dedicated their entire lives to this field, which is not a glamorous field,
Right.
as you know.
Right.
And they do this work and they care about this work. They're passionate about this work. They understand public service and they deliver every day.
With that being said, if I get to my discussion, I have to say that I do drink the water out of the faucet. I still haven't turned green. Still very drinkable. I drink it all and it's fine. And the Lord has given me the opportunity to do a little bit of small traveling. And I have noticed the quality of the water. The water is, I find it cleaner, crisper, just a pleasure to drink, in my opinion. Even when you take a shower, you feel the difference when you take a shower.
I had somebody talk to me last night from out of town who, when they come to Springfield, they fill their water bottles up.
Yeah. So before I get to turn it over to the public, tell me a little bit about some sort of safeguards in terms of, I'm sure it's kind of difficult knowing that there's a little pre-construction before, right? And so there are safeguards to new construction, of course. I'm sure all kinds of safeguards.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, back in 1966, when these slow sands were built, PCBs were like the miracle construction material, right? Now they're completely banned. I think by 1979, they were completely banned.
Mhm.
So all of the current, and obviously our science is better, our analytics are better.
Yeah.
So the new treatment plant is obviously using all of the state of the art building materials.
Yeah.
And so I can't promise you that they're gonna find something in 70 years from now that they think is the greatest
Right.
thing. I can't tell you that, but I know everything that goes into this new plan meets the current standards for building materials and safety, and that goes out. There aren't many industries or sectors that are as regulated as drinking water for the
For good
purpose
reason,
of
yeah.
people drink a lot of water. So there's a lot of exposure.
Before I turn it over to the public, would you please schedule your convenience a tour? I would love to go to the tour myself.
Yeah.
And I'll also be inviting the councilors.
Yeah.
Councilor Gavin took it already, but I think it's important that we do that.
We've had some, Jamie and Katie in particular, we've had some unbelievable events up at West Parish. We've had over 100 people show up and take tours. It's a little more complicated right now, safety-wise, just because of the construction. So I don't think we've been planning any open houses,
I
but
think that's important to note though, is construction hasn't stopped. We're still working on
Good
things.
point.
We've pivoted to other things that we can do in the meantime while we figure this out. So it's not like we're just sitting there.
Doing the-
But so they're, up in front of the 1974 plan is all dug up. We've been putting transmission mains through there, and wherever we can, we are continuing construction. So it is a little bit torn apart.
Thank you, Dave. All right, so now, Councilor Gavin, any questions before I turn it over to the public?
No, thank you, sir.
No problem, Councilor Gavin. So I believe, Fred, do you have a question?
I'm a school teacher, so I think,
thank you.
I say that because elementary school teacher, I just heard Jamie speaking of the ability to view that. I just think a PR move would be that is quarterly, not necessarily monthly, because that's where my heart is. My second question is a little more serious. For the sake of the public, the chlorination. Can you give us a little bit of a history? I moved into Springfield in 1968, and for 40 years it was, my God, this is the best drinking water in the world. And now people are aware of the chlorination. So it's something I think the public needs to know the purpose of it, the degree of it, the history of it.
Yeah, so I think, well, your first question, we have a West Parish Filters website that is updated
Yeah,
regularly.
and chlorination, it was in the 1960s. I don't know the exact year. It might have been 1966, and that was actually imposed by the state. At the time, there were no federal drinking water standards because the Safe Drinking Water Act wasn't passed until 1964, I believe. So it was through the state, and at the time, before that, it was local boards of health that decided whether or not to chlorinate. But chlorination has been happening in the United States since about 1910. And it is considered by the WHO and other organizations one of the miracles of the 20th century in terms of public health, because it basically eradicated waterborne diseases, which prior to that used to wipe out villages and cities regularly. And we still see it in other parts of the world that don't chlorinate and have good water. But I will say that the regulatory limit is 4 parts per million per liter. Don't quite quote me on that. I'll have to double check, but I believe that's the unit. But we're usually in 0.1, 0.2 range. So we are well below the regulatory limit for chlorine. But chlorine is the smell of safety. If you happen to smell it, it is the smell of safety. You want chlorine because E. coli, things like that, they still exist. And they can really cause a lot of damage to a lot of people, particularly vulnerable individuals.
One other thing I'll just add to that, and what we have experienced here in the past 10 years in particular is that our raw water quality has changed too, right? So we don't really see, we have decades and decades and decades of data on water quality up at the water treatment plant and rain data. And where we used to see, we still get 40 some inches of rain a year up there, but it comes differently. And the way it comes now affects raw water quality in the watershed. And this is one of the reasons watershed management is really important to us. And we are leaders in that in New England. When we used to have slow and steady rainstorms, the rain comes down, it trickles through the forest floor, it makes its way to the reservoir, and we're good. But now you have extreme high intensity, short duration storms where it's a cloud burst. It causes erosion. It's washing a lot of particulate material that typically would in the past would be staying on the forest floor. Now that material, which is organics, is washing into the reservoir. And those organics are why we have HAA5s, because in order to get the same effect from the chlorine when you have higher organics, you have to raise the chlorine. And so, but what I will say is, geez, it's probably 2022, 2023, 2017, 2018, where we first started seeing this increase. Now we look back on it now. We didn't know what was going on exactly back then, but we can look back at it pretty clearly now, where we were having to turn up the chlorine to get the same effect of measurement out in our distribution system, right? So back then, I mean, we're talking 10, 12 years ago, the technology that we use now is so much better, right? We have real-time maps with data that is produced daily when we sample. Back then, we didn't have these maps and we didn't know, but we knew we had to turn the chlorine up to have a sample out here in the distribution system that hit X, whatever X was, 0.2, right? And so we had to keep turning the chlorine. We look back at that and we said that was the beginning of the impacts that we would say were the changes in the weather patterns, where it was shorter duration, higher intensity, rain events, washing more organics. And that's why you're getting this new treatment plant, because our raw water quality has changed. And our technology is, our new stuff is 55 years old. So what do you have in your house that's 55 years old that you're still using? Relying on, right? There is just, the water sector is just a very, very unique sector to be in. And it's very challenging because we're dealing with infrastructure We still use infrastructure every day that was built in the 1800s. That's a fact. Every,
Thank you, Judge. I
Yeah.
believe, if I may, Sean, you have, Sean, follow up, Michael.
First, want to thank you guys. My son has been employed for summers at Springfield Water and Sewer for the past 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
He loves it there. Unfortunately, I guess because of budget cuts, you guys aren't doing much, some hiring this year. Fortunately, he did get a job at Chicopee Water.
oh, that's awesome. That's good to hear. That's great. Did you know that? That's great. Yeah.
But he has nothing but good things to say about you guys, and I appreciate you giving him the opportunity. Just a couple of questions. So the HAA fives are a byproduct of the chlorine in the water. With the new filtration system, is that gonna filter out the HAA fives, or is that gonna reduce the amount of chlorine that you guys are gonna have to use, or?
Neither. It's gonna take out the organics. Right, so the organics we just explained that are increasing are being washed into the reservoir, which react with the chlorine, which create HAA fives. The best thing we can do is remove the source of HAA fives, which is the organic. So the new filter plant will remove a significant amount of the organics and will be built to remove additional organics should we experience some change over time. So there's some additional anticipated change for growth, et cetera. So the key to the new treatment plan is a process that will diffused air flotation, which will remove dissolved, which will remove all the organics that wash in.
How quick do you think we would see a result once the new filtration goes live? Really?
Yeah, that's not a gradual thing. It's a process. It's a treatment process, and once it's up and running, it's working. It's not like you don't have to get up to speed. I mean, once it's built and tested and put online and functioning, then your water quality is better instantaneously.
And one last question. So the filters in red are where the PCBs were found, correct?
Correct.
How long have those been offline or not in use?
I mean, so they've been permanently disconnected for, I think, the past 2 years. We really haven't used them to produce water, I think, since 2023.
Right, so they were in 2025, it's 2025, they were permanently disconnected, but they hadn't been used since 2023. We used them very minimally prior to that. Generally, we're using the reps.
What I said, like, I'm gonna say roughly 90, maybe 95% of our water goes through the rapid sand filter plant. That is a better water quality, right? So we don't like to send the notices to you guys, believe it or not. So to the extent that we can, we know we get better water quality. All of the water meets water quality standards, but we know we get better water quality from the rapid sand filter plant. So when we can meet the demand of our customers just through the rapid sand plant, we just use the rapid sand plant. So all of the slow sand filters are used very, very infrequently in the past 10 dozen years. It's just our mindset has been give the best water quality that we can, and that's what we do. So when they are used, it's a very small percentage of the total water. It would be like on the hottest day of the year, when we're maxed out at the rapid sand plant, we might turn up some of the slow sand filters to provide a little extra water to meet demand.
So I guess you know where I'm going with this. So since those have been used within the last however many years, were there PCBs in the water at that?
No, we've tested for PCBs and we're required to do that as we are with HAA5, and we've never had an issue with PCB.
Thank you, Sean. Michael, before I go to you, if you allow me.
We do, I have a hard stop at 4, if that's okay.
We should be able to squeeze.
Okay.
Councilor Govan, and then go Michael. Councilor Govan.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just one question regarding the drinking again. And because of the chlorine that's put, chloridation, I think you called it, is put in the water. That's what people smell, right? And because I remember we had the best water in Western Mass, I would say in the country. At one point, I would brag about it a lot. But I know that the system is old. So that's what we're basically kind of like smelling and tasting if we drink the tap water, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Counselor, I think everybody's smell and taste is a little different, but yes, I think that in general is what people presume that you're tasting. Like, I don't, myself, I don't taste it when I drink the water. Like, some people are super sensitive to it. Like, we get some customers who call on a regular basis and like, they'll know when we turn the chlorine up. I'm talking a micro dose, like they call, I don't know how they know. But some people are more sensitive than others.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Govan. Michael?
Thank you. I'll try to make this quick.
Sure.
So tonight or this evening, you repeatedly stressed that you're working with some infrastructure that's more than 100 years old. Are there any other toxic or hazardous materials that you're concerned about inside the rest of the facility?
No, I mean, I think that like there's other phases of construction here, but for the current contract and the current work, no, we are not concerned with other stuff. PCBs were known to be used at this time.
Yeah, and could you talk about any case studies involving PCBs? I know you don't want to speculate, but I'm curious if, it's typical for it to seep down deep into the soil or if it remains highly localized to the joints where it was used.
Yeah, we're not the expert in PCBs. We hire experts in PCBs. So I don't want to talk about things that I don't have command of the information. So I think, those are questions that are better answered by our experts, and we do have them.
And then the final question is, how well maintained is the rapid sand filter facility? Is that where you'd like it to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's old too, it's 55 years old, and it's approaching the end of its useful life as well. So, but we lean on that every single day, 24/7, 365. So we have a ton of focus with our operations staff right now as we're essentially building a new treatment plant around this. There's a massive construction project around the existing plant. We are hyper focused on maintaining that facility and trying to keep it operational. So we're very, very careful that's we're really leaning on that. So yeah, that's a major focus for us, and we need it to be working here for the next 3-4 years.
We've done some recent refurbishment of
Yeah,
what we can.
Prior to this project starting, we invested quite a bit in the rapid sand plant to make sure that it was, up to speed, well maintained, and refurbished some parts that were original.
Thank you. I just quick time check 358. So we need to ask like 30 seconds question to answer.
Thank you.
I saw you, Fred, but medium.
Could this have been anticipated given PCBs being used so much in construction back then? And was it in the plan ahead of time that this might have been found?
We rely on our experts to anticipate this stuff. We're not PCB experts, so I can't speak to whether it could have, should have, or would have, but we rely on our experts to do the design work that is required to do construction of this type.
The final question belongs to Fred.
Just a rapid proposal for the proposal of contamination soil. I mean, a seriously heavy cost.
Well, I mean, remember, all of this was getting demolished and going somewhere anyway, right? So now it's just got to go somewhere else. So it's the construction project isn't changed that significantly, right? I mean, just in theory, right? Like I said earlier, we need to get our sampling back and understand how we can categorize and how we can kind of put each of these things in a silo and say this much can go here, this much can go there, and this much needs to go there.
And will you be building a rapid sand filter replacement if it is such an ideal?
No, because even the rapid sand plant is 55 57 years old already, maybe 60 years old, but no, there's other technology and other traditional direct filtration plan, which is what.
Thank you, friend. With that, before we end the meeting, I want to say briefly, thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for explaining to the residents of not only Springfield, but the region, what's happening with at the West Parish Center. Also, I would like to reassure the public that the water is safe to drink. Do not be afraid to drink the water. Every time you open the water faucet and you get a glass of water, when you cook, make tea, whatever, just think of the amount of work that it goes to make 1 cup of coffee. That's to make 1 cup of water.
And cough.
Which I'm gonna make.
We need both.
But yeah, but you can tell what I'm thinking. I find that I think somebody just said miracle a little while ago. It is truly
I
a
know.
miracle.
It is.
That it takes not only the amount of money that has to be invested, the infrastructure, but the daily operation that it takes to produce 1 cup of water for you to drink. If we didn't have the water, civilization would come to a standstill.
Okay.
So absolutely. So with that, I thank you, Josh. Thank you, Theo, Jamie. Thank you for coming. And you have the final thought.
Well, we anytime council or subcommittees ask, we obviously come. We're happy to talk about what we do. We're all passionate about it. And I do want to end with, we used to have a visual in our budget hearings that we would do. There is no better value than tap water from your local water supplier. You get about 750 gallons of water for like $1, a couple dollars. You go to the supermarket and you buy your water at Costco. No offense, counselor, but you or BJ's. And I don't like to advertise for free, but
I know, sorry.
you're paying 10 times, 100 times the amount of money for a product that is exactly the same. So we're huge believers in the work that we do and the value that we provide.
Yeah. With that being said, thank you so much. The time is now 4:01. I'm officially adjourning the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
safe
Thank you for
weekend.
coming, everybody.
God bless you.